bring Chad up here. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, sir. Well, first of all, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a crazy week. I started in Kansas City this week, and then I spent 2 days in South Dakota speaking to groups. I'll enjoy part of my day here with you fine folks, and then head back to Central Illinois, where I'm from. Monday, head to Wisconsin, and then I'll be at Commodity Classic the end of next week. So it's that time of year. I will tell you that when I get the opportunity to speak to groups, and I do it quite often, my favorite, bar none, is when I can sit in a room like this with 100 or 150 producers, because that's my bread and butter. That's what I love the most. And that'll come out today. You know, I grew up on a farm in Central Illinois. If we could we get the middle lights maybe killed here just so you guys can see this a little better? What I want to talk to you about today is around potential, okay? Because we have that gift in agriculture to always push those limits. This photo's a good picture of that. I'm actually in the tractor, I believe age around 11 or 12. My dad is the little guy back here with the green cap on. These are some farmer neighbors of ours. This contraption here was a local company was working on a one-pass-all for planting, and then obviously we know what this contraption is, and don't worry, my dad did not buy one of these. And none of this worked. But I learned at a young age that to succeed in farming, you're always going to push those limits. And the next hour that I spend with you fine folks today, I'm going to push your limits. There'll be some things I share with you that will make you uncomfortable. I guarantee that. But I also will tell you, I keep practical application in front. That's what we're going to talk about. You know, it's not a secret where we sit in agriculture today. If you talk to your dad or your grandpa, wherever it is down the road from 20 years ago, we're raising more corn. We also know that our incomes are down. That's not a secret. But I will argue with most of you in the room that technology is as big a challenge as anything. I sat here and caught 3/4 of the presentation this morning that those two gentlemen did an amazing job. Seriously, I see it all the time. And you see all that technology, and it's hard to figure out where you go. And the problem is, I remember when we got this issue of Farm Journal in, I think it's 82, somewhere in there, maybe 81, I don't remember. I think it was 82. And I was trying to debate with my father to spend $2,500 on a computer for the farm, and he said, there's absolutely no way. The only way we got a computer on the farm is because I built one myself, okay? Guys, this is before Windows, right? And my point is, I think we're still in that same place today. I think there's still a lot of technology out there that we underutilize in our farms. You know, you go read a lot of great publications. They're in front of you every week, every month. This is a great article in Precision Ag. You Can't Handle the Truth, 10 Things Ag Tech Needs to Admit. It's a great article if you get a chance to read it. I know Nathan, it was a very good article, but I'll argue with most of you in the room that I think we fall into two categories with agriculture. And this video over here is fantastic. So which one are you? Are you the one that goes down the slide nice and easy? Oh, she did such a good job. Or are you this kid? I'll let that play for a minute. Let that sink in because I'll tell you, I think that's where this room sits. There's some of you in here, and we'll get to it, that have a tablet that's 3 years old and go, I don't need an iPad. What are these people even doing here? I already have one. I'll cross that off the list. We're good. Yeah, we're going to play games on it. The fact of the matter is, no one's explained to you why you should upgrade. And I'll show you that this morning amongst other things. I think when you get an opportunity to go to farm shows and learn about technology, you go to the venues that are near you, right? What surrounds us. You know, in this part of the country, I'm guessing you go to Big Iron, maybe you go to Louisville, the National Farm Machinery Show, you might catch a Farm Progress Show. This slide right here is from Agritechnica in 2017. It is the largest farm show in the world. There is nothing that compares. 3,000 vendors, 500,000 people, 130 acres. It's unbelievable. I walked 40 miles in 2017 and didn't see it all. And the reason why I bring this up is you go to these events. This is Agritechnica. This is one of 26 buildings, ladies and gentlemen. It's unbelievable. And you go to these events, Farm Progress Show. This was World Ag Expo last week in Tulare, California. And of course, this was Louisville last week. And when you attend those events and you walk around, what do? You walk down the aisles, you look at stuff and go, yeah, right, we're not doing that. Nope, I'm not going to buy that. No, I don't care what that is. I'm not going to touch it. And the reason being is because you do what you know. And part of my conversation with you this morning is I need you to get out of that little comfort zone, okay? I need you to think outside the box. You know, you go buy a new pickup truck today and you go, okay, it's time for a new truck. And you go, wow, that's a nice looking Dodge truck. And then for some of you in the room, you open the door and go, there is no way I'm buying that. And you close the door. And I just saw several heads shaking because I know that's true. You know, I was at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas here a couple months ago, which is crazy. And I've had the opportunity to ride in a Tesla. Driving it was really neat. Riding in the passenger seat when they turn all the autonomous stuff on is absolutely not comfortable. Merging onto traffic in Los Angeles and at 90, 80 miles an hour, whatever it was, and he pushes the button and turns all that stuff on, takes his hand off the steering wheel in traffic. I was all done in 2 miles. I'd had enough. And I'm a guy that raced snowmobiles for 20 years, burning down these road ditches out here. I'm telling you, I'm not afraid of anything. Fly airplanes. That didn't feel good. I don't know that we need to move our car from our smartphone. I don't know that that's a necessity in our life. But trust me, people do it. Taking that one step further, I don't know if you know this, BMW has a very successful line of motorcycles. And they're very nice. Been around for a long, long time. At the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, you look at this motorcycle, what do you see? Nothing special. Maybe a GPS puck and an antenna. But guys, they can run it remote control. Now listen, I have no idea what the hell we're going to do with this. Okay? But I want you to sit in your chair today and realize they can do it. Do you see training wheels on that bike? Do you see any gaudy engineering equipment? No, you don't. That's crazy, in my opinion. Taking it one step further at the Consumer Electronics Show, did you guys know that John Deere was there this year? John Deere had a booth there. I play a little video clip here. It's about a minute and a half long. We aired this on This Week in Agribusiness, if some of you saw it. The interesting part of that was, and I spent some time with the team at John Deere, when you stand in front of a combine, everybody in this room, I understand, you know what that is, and you watch executives walk up to a combine wearing $1,000 suits with all their stuff on, so you know who they are, and go, what is that? And have no concept of what it is. Zero. That's a little concerning. But hopefully here, if technology presents it, this video should play.
Largest technology showcase in the world, over 200,000 people attended, 1,000 vendors. It is a sight to see. But the thing I was most impressed with how agriculture is represented this year in the big way, our friends at John Deere had an amazing display.
I tried that one.
Technology. So producers who want to know, what we spent this week educating young consumers about the hard work that you are doing on their behalf. Produce food, the technology that is enabling you to work more efficiently and productively. We also highlighted
That's okay. They can hear it.
because these are the technologies that the tech community is talking about, but many folks don't have an appreciation for the technology that exists in agriculture. And so we highlighted artificial intelligence that exists in our latest S700 series combine. Another technology that we highlighted was our See and Spray technology that uses computer vision and machine learning to help equipment distinguish between a crop and a weed and make selective location decisions to reduce herbicide use by up to 80%. Consumers were really excited to understand how these types of technologies can not only help you producers be more productive, but to do so in a sustainable way that really impacts them. Thanks.
It's pretty interesting. Did you hear him talk about his combine? I think some of you in this room are certainly well aware of this. Doesn't matter what your flavor of machinery is. If you buy a new red combine or a green one or a black one, it doesn't matter today. It has intelligence on board to adjust on the fly, and it works very well. You know, most of our tillage tools now, if they don't, they will in the very near future, will have sophistication built on board to monitor the kind of product they're putting behind it, something we never even thought about 20 years ago. You know, but I need you guys to know, when I get a chance to visit with farm machinery manufacturers, and I do quite often, I've really had it with this, okay? I am incredibly frustrated with this, and I have been for years. I think it's terribly unfortunate that here in 45 days or 60 days, many of you in this room are going to have to go, wait a minute, how do I do that again? And you won't remember how to do it. And the argument I make with the manufacturers is this. What does this device not come with it? Can somebody tell me what does not come with this device? There's a half a dozen new iPads sitting over there, and not one of them has it in the box. What is it? Manual. Good job. It's a manual. Why is that? It's because they're intuitive enough that if they have power and you turn them on, you can figure it out very easily. Why can't we do that in farm equipment? So guess what? It's coming. So some of you may have heard of this, some of you may not. This is Kinsey's new monitor from, they call it Blue Vantage. All I did is turn this on. Now, I've used this in a field the last couple years, and it's out now. But watch this. I turned it on is all I did. I want to plant corn. I'm going to push this button up here called Plant. You push this button if you haven't seen it. Select the field you want. I'm going to grab this top one. Select what I'm going to plant. It's got a population in it. And you put the planter down and drive. Way to go, Kinsey. And I will tell you, Case or CNH, so grab New Holland there, and John Deere, they're going this way too. And it's about time because it's very confusing. You know, that being said, I have to tell you another quick story in the room too about technology. Does anybody have a smartwatch or a smart device at all? Anybody have one? Awesome. So there's 4 of you in the room. I guarantee you there's going to be some of you that are sitting here that watch this that'll go, wow, I didn't know that. So 2 years ago, February of 17, I'm in Florida at an event. And at that time, I always bought the latest and greatest. I've had every iPhone, every tablet they've come out with. That's just what I've done my whole life. And I bought the first couple generations of watches, and I'm not a watch wearer. I never have been my whole life. And I would wear it some, and then I wouldn't wear it. And finally, in 17, I'm in the winter. I'm like, well, I'm speaking all the time. I'm going to try. Thank goodness. Maybe the Lord was speaking to me. And in February, I was at an event in Florida. I spoke in the morning, went out for dinner that night, had a steak, was nothing crazy. Had a glass of wine, I think, was sitting there with my friends. And my watch, and I'd been doing it all day, and I just ignored it, was telling me to breathe. Literally came on and said, breathe. Okay, whatever. That night, I'm sitting there with my friend at the table, and he goes, what's wrong with your watch? And I was looking, and he's telling me to breathe. He goes, what's your heart rate? And I go, I don't know. So I pushed the button, it told me, and I was running about 140, 150, sitting in a chair, doing 0. So I was like, well, that's probably not normal. Felt 100% fine. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink soda. I'm not a caffeine guy. So we get back to the hotel at the resort, staying right on the drink in Destin, Florida. There is no stress here. Went to my room, took a shower, no phone, no computer, no TV, went to bed. Got up in the morning, no TV, no nothing, no electronics. Quietly went over and grabbed my watch and put it on my wrist and looked at it again and went, oh, really? And it's around the same speed. So I made a few phone calls, and I'm still a farmer kid, so I'm sure someone will scold me for this, but I'm like, you know what? I just really don't want to go to the hospital in Florida because that means I'm going to be stuck here. You guys know that feeling. So I'm like, I'm going to fly home. So I got on a commercial flight, flew home, got to Bloomington at 7 or 8 o'clock that night, walked right into the ER, and then proudly spent 3 days in the ER doing every test that you can ever do twice. Couldn't find out my heart was fine, but the heart specialist came into my room, and she said, well, Chad, I got good news and bad news. Good news, your heart's all fine. There's no damage. Everything's fine. And it came down to a normal pace. And she said, I just have to ask you. And this gal was from India or something. She's like the smartest heart person in the Midwest. And they ran all my tests twice because they couldn't figure out what's going on. And she said, how did you know your heart was beating fast? And I said, I had this on. And she said, do you realize that if you had a heart problem and that did that, it might have saved your life? I've got 8 friends right now is the count that have bought watches because of it. And the newest generation, and I'm sure you can probably get them from these fine folks, the newest generation has an ECG or an EKG built in, and you can put your finger on it if you're not feeling well, and it'll record this for you, and look at that. Export it to your doctor. Friends, this is what's around us, and this is going to keep expanding. So any of you in the room, if you have any issues with health stuff like this, go spend $300, okay? I just had to share that little story with you. The other side of smart devices is this. There's a lot of things we can do with this. The guys before me did a great job showing a lot of different applications. I want you to note this picture down the bottom. We've been using these for 2 years. You can mount little thermal cameras on the bottom of your phone. That's a screenshot. That's corn grown. It's kind of neat. We use it in grain storage in a lot of different ways. I've done a couple surveys here in the last couple months, and they should get your attention. The one on the left, when do you upgrade your phone? I don't need to ask this room because I already know it. There's about a third of you in the room that stay with current technology. There's another third in the room that buys, a new phone every year or two, and then there's this other third that needs to go buy a new phone this afternoon. And I'll explain to you why. No disrespect. I'll explain to you why. This over here needs to get everybody's attention. Everyone's attention right here. Are you doing more business today via text? So this had 1,400 people voted that's a pretty good number. And it says 80%. And I don't want to say I didn't believe it, but at some big speaking events I've been to throughout the Midwest the last 60 days, I've asked that to groups, and I will tell you that number's pretty right. So think about that. We use our phones a lot more. We're going to use them a lot more. Why aren't you upgrading? Well, let me show you. So industry will have it that in agriculture, that number's about 75%, maybe 80%, use an iOS phone, use an Apple phone. So let's do a show of hands. Who uses Apple in this room? What do you think, guys? 80%, right? So the reason why I bring this up is if you're running a current model iPhone, that's a 10, a Max, or an XR, these are their speed ratings, okay? Called right around 5,000. You get to an 8, you can see that drops off. You get to a 7, it goes to 3,400. You get down here somewhere, and you just need to throw it in the garbage. And look, this is what I will tell you. And I had 2 examples yesterday afternoon. You could hear it in the tone of my voice. I spoke yesterday afternoon at First Dakota Bank, and I was in Pierre, I believe. And Pierre, there you go. Or Fort Pierre, actually, I think. Across the river, yeah. And I said this exact same story. I had 2 guys yesterday afternoon that texted me that said, hey, thanks, Chad. I should have bought a phone 2 years ago. That went out and bought a new phone. The performance gains are incredible. So we got a lot of users of John Deere equipment. Tell me, somebody in this room has heard of the John Deere App Center. Raise your hand. Great, there's 4 of you. Whew! Okay, that being said, for the rest of you that use John Deere equipment, this is a little bit of an aha moment for you. So you can download this app. You can do it on your iOS or Apple phone, and it shows all the applications available from John Deere. Now, I get it. Maybe you don't bale hay, and maybe you don't want to play in the virtual combine. But let's say, for example, you're going to plant corn this spring. They've got an app called Planter Plus. You click on it with your phone. This little thing comes up right here. You say, OK, and you download it to your phone. Now, listen, I can talk at a pretty good pace, but I want to explain to you what's going to happen. This is the app over here on my phone. I'm going to hit the open button, and this records this. So what happens now is I'm going to set up my planter. Notice I didn't say new planter. It's whatever planter you have. If you have a 10-year-old planter or a brand new one, you walk through it. So this video is going to play right now. It opens the app. Do you want to share your stuff with Deere? Yes or no? Okay, fine. You just walk through this, and it's going to ask you 14 questions to set up all the manuals and everything in your phone. Here's the get started. I did a 1775 NT, exact emerge with fertilizer, with Starfire 6000, with the big seed star, with markers, section control, with frame weight, easy fold, blah, 2-point, blah, blah, blah. This is in real time. I'm not making this up. So in about 30 seconds, you've set up your planter, you hit save. There's the planter that's saved, and you have all the data on your planter at your fingertips. And you say, well, what's that mean? Well, say I want to go adjust downforce adjustment. And you're like, I don't even remember how to do that. That was 12 months ago. You can click on the button, it'll walk you right through it while you're sitting there. It's really cool stuff. Oh, and by the way, probably not going to work out the best if you got a 4-year-old phone. Okay? So just keep that in mind. It's pretty neat stuff. Tablets is a no-brainer. So show of hands in the room, if you know, do you have a Pro model iPad? Raise your hand. So there's 6 or 7 of us. All of you guys, you get a pass. The rest of you, I'm sorry. This is going to cost you $1,000. So this is the previous generation iPad Pro. You can see it right here. This is the one before that. The newest generation of iPad Pro, which you'll see on the screen here in a minute, is this guy. The reason you know it is, it doesn't have a button and the pencil magnetically hooks to the top. So this one is not up here yet. That line I drew is everybody else in this room but the 5 people that raised their hand that don't have a Pro model. Look at the performance. If you have any other iPad, and let's just assume you've got an Air 2, the speed rating from Geekbench is 1800. The newest one is 4000, and this one is another 30% higher than this one. So you're telling me if you were at this event today and they said, hey guys, we got new seed genetics. If you try these new seed genetics, it's going to be 40% better. You wouldn't all go try it? So don't believe me. Watch this. The one on the left is an iPad Pro, the old model. This is the new model. Watch this in real time. You might recognize this. So when this opens up, you'll see the one on the right, the new one, is a little wider view. You got 5 columns of climate. This one's got 4 because it's got a little bigger screen. But I want you to watch my fingers. I'm going to click on the same field and go through the same process at the same time. This is much, much faster than this thing. And most of you in the room, 80 or 90%, don't even have this level of performance. There's nothing that frustrates me more than to crawl into a tractor cab in the spring and look over and the guy in a $300,000 tractor and a however many $100,000 planter, and he's got a 5-year-old tablet in there. And then complaining why it's not working right. So please, upgrade your smart tech now. I'm sorry, it's just going to cost you a little money. So this is another great story. So as most of you know, I do a lot of things on the equipment side too. I took this video in 2013. I'm in this combine right here, helping a friend of mine. Now, we may have staged this photo, okay? But what I want you to notice is the combine I'm running has singles on it. So when I showed up that morning to help this guy, one of their guys was in the hospital and couldn't make it, so he called me to help him. They said, Chad, you're going to run that combine over there. It's got some prototype tires on it. You're going to run that one. I'm like, really? You're going to put me in the combine with not duals? Okay. And then I realized this technology was pretty amazing. So I've spent, since November is when I left there, I'd spent the last 3 years working for a machinery dealership group in Central Illinois. I've been there for 120 years, and it allowed me to do a lot of research and a lot of trials that I've been involved with for years. And this you can see now is starting to be a thing. And this is low sidewall tires. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty impressive. And yeah, the combine, it does a great job, competes with tracks, no problem, rides better, all that warm fuzzy stuff. But where I get excited is on the agronomy side of things. I love this story. This gentleman right here at the top bought these tires on his tractor in the fall to have on his auger cart tractor because there's no hop and bounce and whatever. They're neat. And I said, listen, don't you plant corn with this? He said, why? And I said, because I haven't checked this out myself. I know what the manufacturer's claiming. Don't do it. He's like, we'll just try 80 acres or so. I said, well, you call me right away. He called me. They'd already planted 500 acres with it. He's got Delta Force on his planter. And I jumped up in the cab with him. And Delta Force, as you know, hydraulic downforce on the planter, if you drive out with a pickup truck or a gator, it'll adjust for it. You guys know this. It's nothing new. Delta Force was not picking up these tire tracks. That was 2 years ago. They haven't taken the tires off since. So this is a thing. If you haven't seen it, this is coming. This is a thing. Then you've got this debate. So I wasn't at this test, so I'm not going to comment on it, but I did this one. I spent a ridiculous amount of time matching chisels. We spent 3 hours with 3 or 4 guys making them the same. These are both 580 tractors. This one had 200 hours on it. This one had like 14 on it. And I can swear on my parents' grave, we never touched these. These are bone stock. I know this farmer that bought this tractor, that one came right from Fargo. And we ran them back and forth, and they never got away from each other. Wheel tractor might be ahead a little bit, the quad might be ahead a little bit, and we ran them 100% performance. I don't have to tell anybody in this room, there's certainly applications for tracks. I get that. But there's also pretty big pressure on our wallet. And I don't have to tell you the maintenance involved with this tractor. It's called air. There's a little more maintenance with this one. So And it's about $50,000 difference here. It's a lot more up here. So it's pretty interesting. I've got some more research projects coming in this. This is a thing, okay? So just put it on your table. The other thing that's a thing is high-speed discs. If you guys haven't seen that, and I realize I'm 47 years old, I grew up that if you use a disc in the spring, you can't hardly even raise a crop. Trust me, I get it. You're building roads. I know all the stories. But to manage high residue, we've had really good luck with this. And I've got friends that have run them in northern Iowa, in highly erodible, all across the Midwest. The rubber roller here works really good, but where the magic is where guys are going into high residue corn. They're hitting it one time in the fall, and then they just come back and plant the soybeans in the spring. It's been very effective. And against my better judgment, we did a lot of testing last year with a couple customers of mine that I know very well, ahead of the corn planter, right next to a cultivator, and you couldn't see the difference. So this is pretty impressive. So keep that on your radar too, and when your neighbor or your equipment salesman says, hey, I want to bring some up to your farm and try it, you need to. I've tried them all. I've ran all of them. I like the rubber roller, just as a heads up. Anybody can do a nice job in the spring. The rubber roller in the fall is magical, as you can see right here. You know what? I know some of you do, because I've seen some of the social media posts here the last couple years. Who does strip till up here? Is there anybody doing anything with strip till? I mean, I know you've played with it because I've seen it. I'm going to tell you right now, strip till also is something, and it doesn't work everywhere. Your soils up here are considerably different than ours. But I want to put it on your radar because I want to share this story about pushing the limits. Good friend of mine, Matt Foes, farms in northern Illinois. Take Interstate 80 cuts to Chicago from the Quad Cities, and he's north there. He's got about 2,500 acres. And Matt and I've known Matt for years. We just continue to do what people say you can't. That's pretty much our middle name. Oh, you can't do it? Okay, well, we'll try. And this was trials from last year. He's got a current machine now. He's doing 2 products and all this warm fuzzy. But he never started that way. You know, he started first with an old school machine. Then he started doing side dress like this. And you could see this is, conventional side dress, but they're using wide drop to, most people are getting away from coulters right now. That seems to be a little bit better. But the interesting part of Matt's conversation is this. This is my favorite slide, my favorite conversation about 2018. And I'm going to share it with you right now because this will give you a moment of pause. You look up here. This is Matt's field over here. Now, Matt does 2 products when he plants. I should put a picture of his planter because it's insane. This is his neighbor that does everything conventionally. He's a good farmer. Neighbor's a good farmer. He's a good guy. All of us will take Matt's corn. It's grabbed a hold of nutrients. It's having a good day. And it looks like Matt can plant straight too. This guy over here, you can tell the color in the corn just in this photo. This image here is when Matt harvested. Oh, whoops. Matt's corn's laying flat on the ground. Neighbor's corn's standing tall. This is the exact same place. I was with Matt. Matt called me. He'd picked off the headlands on the west side of the field. He's like, where are you at? And I said, I don't know. I'm an hour away. He goes, you need to get in your truck and you need to drive here right now because you will not believe this. I'm like, what's that? He goes, I'm in the down corn. And that down corn, he could only go one direction at 1.7 mile an hour. It was brutal. I said, do you need me to bring beer? He's like, yeah, bring me some beer. I'm like, okay. So listen, if I know what you're thinking in the chair. You're thinking, Matt's screwed. This is bad. You can see that. Watch this. So here's what it looks like. It was a joy. I want you to pay careful attention to the yield monitor. Field made 286. The best we can tell by the neighbor's corn, it made about 250. Matt used less nitrogen than the neighbor did. I'm telling you, the conversation about nutrients and placement and how much nutrients, and you heard the team up here talking about it earlier, we're done with my dad's days of farming. I've all been there, so have you. That means, well, if 150 units of N is good, by God, let's put on 170. We've all been there, every one of you. And the challenge becomes this, if that'll click to the next slide. You know, things have changed. Here's my buddy Matt. You know, he's not ripping a field with a coulter. You can see he's putting nitrogen right next to the plant. Matt uses the least amount of nitrogen as anyone I know. Splits it up 3 ways. Early in the, he has a little bit when he does his side dress with the planter, and then he comes back late like this. And this picture here is fun. I just put this in here because not only did Matt spill corn, but he was giving me a social gesture for taking a picture of him spilling corn. And I said, well, Matt, because of that, I'm going to show a picture to everybody all winter that you spilled corn off your combine. But Matt's a good friend of mine, spent 20 years as agronomist with Monsanto, and some of you might know Matt actually worked at 360 as well. He just farms now. But the thing that Matt does that really pounds into my head is that last statement. And I want you guys to take that home today. You're not farming the land, you're growing a plant. And that thought process is kind of what Matt and I have done the last several years on how we make decisions with technology. What can we do to better the plant? So listen, it wasn't easy. This was Matt's first attempt at a strip bar. And you guys all know this. The only way this thing was worth $10,000 if there was 10 grand in cash in that toolbox, right? Because we all got to weld on things like this. But we learned on the first attempt at this, which all of you can do. We did it in 20-acre strips. We knew that we were saving $50 an acre in machinery costs. That's a black and white. And the corn yields were about 7 bushel better, and the only thing we were doing was putting nitrogen in the same place and planting into it. We weren't even variable rating our fertilizer yet. My point today with this is this, and I'm going to talk about drones and some other cool stuff, is this. Outside of upgrading your phone or your tablet today, there's one challenge I would like to reiterate with the guys that were up here speaking earlier. And they had some good names for it. On your operations, if you're making a nutrient pass or a planter pass in 2019, do yourself a favor and change those rates, 20 and 30%, up and down, on your farm. Is anybody doing lower population in soybeans? Oh, really? You are? Awesome. I won't put any one of you on the spot, but I can tell you this. You raise more yield with less soybeans. It's not the way you think it used to be. And I just saw 2 guys' heads going, yep, it's true. I've got friends, now granted, our soils are considerably different in central Illinois, so I'll give you that. But I've got friends raising 100 bushel soybeans today. 100 bushel soybeans. One of them in particular, I talked to him for 40 minutes this morning driving up here. We always check up every couple weeks. And you know what he told me? We were laughing. I said, hey, confirm with me. What'd you plant for population last year on those 100 bushel beans? He's like 117,000 on 30-inch rows. What? Don't believe me. Don't believe these 6 guys that raise their hand. Try it yourself. Reach over and push the button. Please, try that. So when we start talking about technology and pushing the limits, this is. Does anybody know where this picture is? Anybody recognize that building? Anybody like football? Does that help you? Chicago Field. This is the 1934 World's Fair. This tractor right here from Farmall or McCormick, whatever it is the very first tractor in the world, I'll repeat it, in 1934, that was remote control. So we all get a little nervous when we see things like this. What? A battery? It's an electric tractor I have to plug in? What? And then you see things in the marketplace like this where we don't have cabs on our tractors. And you think, yeah, we're not ever going to do that. Well, I got news for you. At some point, there's going to be some of this autonomous equipment is going to make our way to farms in this room. Whether that's 3 years from now or 5 years from now, it's coming. We got tractors that can drive other tractors. The one that was operating that was in the field. And we've got some other concepts out here. This is from Dot, a company in Canada. They make the Seedmaster big seeders in Canada. I see a couple heads shaking. This is super cool. They've been working on it for 3 years. It's the price point of like a $200,000 row crop tractor. I'm sorry, a 200 horsepower row crop tractor. This has some potential. Take it to the field on a trailer, set it up, and let it go. I get it. You hit a rock, it plugs up. Guess what it does? Same thing you do. It'll stop and alert you, hey, something's wrong, and you have to go out and deal with it. I'm not saying this is the solution. I'm telling you, though, it's coming. There's some really neat technology here. Now, I'm going to try this next video, and the volume's a little louder, so you should hear this okay. At the World Ag Expo last week in California, the guys from Gus, which is a really, really big, long-standing commercial sprayer operation, has spent the last several years developing a fully autonomous sprayer that they are retailing now.
Started developing this sprayer in 2014 just to deal with our own labor challenges, our own commercial spraying business. Very challenging to develop this machine. It's about 3.5 years through the point where it's workable. We reviewed it at the spraying contract last year and started doing what we've been working on for so long. And right after that, we took 4 sprayers and started spraying commercially with those. They were spraying just over 20,000 last year, those 40 strips. Just trying to fine tune it, working the bugs out. Now we're at the point where we're going to get into production and start sales. The user interface allows one person to monitor up to about 8 to 10 of these sprayers at a time. And basically, you can sit in a pickup or a stranger on the side of the field with a laptop, and he just watches all the sprayers as they're in the field doing their thing. It's important to know that the sprayers are completely, fully autonomous. They are not being controlled by the operator. He's just basically watching the material rates that they're putting out, and just making sure that they're doing right.
It's pretty neat technology, and I can tell you this, it does work. It got a lot of attention. The part I was a little concerned about is the sprayers cost, just so you know, they put on 200 to 300 gallon an acre out there in the permanent crops. Remember, they don't have, the GPS is not effective because the almond trees are 20, 25 foot tall, so they've got a lot of technology on board to do that. Just a little cost analysis and a little bit of excitement for you. Sprayers are about $100,000. Typically, they've got a gas motor on them to power them, and you pull them with a lightweight, like 75 horse tractor, so you keep the weight off the orchard. So we can all do the math. You're probably somewhere in that $175,000 range for a conventional system. That one was $285,000. So I'm not exactly sure how wild they're going to go over, but it's pretty interesting. So as most of you know, I've spent a lot of time doing the drone thing. And I've been doing it before it was a thing. The first time I started playing with drones in the ag space was 2011. So I've been there, done this in crazy ways. I've spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. I don't think I've asked this group. Are there any pilots in the room? Anybody flying real airplanes? There's one, there's two. So great, there's 3 of us in here that understand aviation. Everybody else in here doesn't have a clue, other than it's really handy to go in the airport and jump on a plane and go to Florida. I get that. But it's a little more sophisticated than that. And I've spent some time on Capitol Hill. I need everybody in the room to understand today is not like 5 years ago. There's a process to go through to fly drones commercially, and it's not a big deal. Okay? That being said, you need to understand the rules. There's 2 places you can go. You can go to knowbeforeyoufly.org or the FAA drone zone. Look, I get it. It's fun to think we're going to buy a drone and do some mischief. I also need you to understand there's tremendous responsibility that goes with it. There's not one of us in the room when our son or daughter turns 16 years old that you just flip them the keys to a brand new Corvette and go, I don't know, just go have fun. Well, guess what? Drones are the same way. You don't just fire one up in town on a Friday night and go fly over your football game because that sounds fun. Well, guess what? If you do, you're going to get in trouble. John Wayne sums it up pretty well, and then I'll leave that horse alone. Life is pretty hard. It's even harder if you're still. I'm just saying. That's pretty accurate. So we got to use our head. That being said, look, there's a lot of amazing, neat imagery you can do with drones, and I'm going to show you that this morning. But I'm also going to remind you the simple fact of this. I can take this drone right here. Hopefully you guys can see that. In that box right there, it's $2,500. And I don't sell any of this garbage. You probably should have. For $2,500, and in a couple minutes, you can go out and do some amazing scouting. You know, I literally pulled in the driveway today. My truck is parked right there. And I was like, you know what? The weather's not bad. I'm going to grab a couple pictures here quick. Took me 3 minutes. Take it out of the box and get airborne. Downloaded high-resolution imagery just like this. I walked in the room. I texted it right to you in minutes. My point is, there's no one in this room that's going to convince me, period, that you can't afford $2,500 to do this and scout your fields. Not a chance. It's super easy to use, and I'll show you that as well. So I kind of grabbed some of the best of scouting, and the guys did a good job this morning talking about that pickup truck pass at 75 mile an hour or 50 mile an hour, whatever it is. It's no different than this. How are you going to tell how much this field is flooded driving by? Give me a break. You're not. How many of you are going to see driving down this road right here how much of this cornfield is laying flat? No way you can tell me that. I love this picture. This picture is from 2013. The reason why I put it back in the slide deck about 2 weeks ago is it fortifies something that's so powerful. This particular farmer right here lives in northern Illinois. They bought a drone for, at the time, $3,500 because they were putting up a new grain leg, and the son wanted to document that construction because we know that's kind of a big deal on a farm, right? And they got this wind right before corn was about to tassel. This is 20-inch corn. Obviously, they spray it the opposite direction. That's what you're looking at out there. And he called me. He's like, I can't believe this. My dad and my grandpa and I, before 9 in the morning, knew of our 4,000 acres, that we had 850 acres on the ground. And I am shocked at all the decisions that we made and talked about in the pickup truck and never got our boots dirty. And I was like, well, what kind of decisions you talk about? So look at that picture. Talked about varieties. We talked about weed pressure. We talked about disease. We talked about crop rotation. Talked about what we're going to do for harvest. And this was all before we called our insurance agent at 9 in the morning. And they never got their boots dirty. Powerful stuff. That being said, the inspection side of things is also equally as powerful, regardless of what that inspection is. This is a pivot, a buddy of mine in Nebraska. He sent me this. It was pretty cool. Obviously in drones, and they've been around a long time. A show of hands, who owns a drone? Anybody have one? Sure you do. There's 4 or 5 of you. That's pretty typical. Anybody had a drone on their farm in any way, in any capacity? Yeah, there's a few more of you. So the challenge has always been with the drones is what am I going to do with them, right? These are expensive. This rig was expensive back in the day. It was upwards of 20 grand. This is in 2013, I guess it was. I want you to know, in 14, actually you're right, this is 14, I'm sorry. In 14, we had capability with this drone right here. You see this right here? That is a cellular antenna. Do you guys know in 2014 we were taking images from the aircraft in flight and sending them back for data processing while we're in flight? We were doing that 5 years ago. We had a lot of challenges with this system. They worked. I don't crash this. It actually takes off. But you had to drag around a catapult. And it was just, oh my gosh, it was painful. And in 14, I'll never forget this, and I'll probably tell this story for a lot of years. Our crops came up. They looked amazing. And you know what the kicker was? I flew drones for about 2 weeks. I was so excited. And back in 13, my goodness, drones were just the hottest thing ever. I flew about 6,000 acres before it finally rained, and I took a break. I had bought the best, actually had it custom built, the most powerful computer you can have. Spent an embarrassing amount of money on it, and the first 160 acres I did took me 21 acres to process, and I went, oh, this is never going to work. This is never going to be a thing, because it took me 20 hours to process the first 160 acres. That was 5 years ago. The other problem we had, when we did end up stitching data together, now we're fast forwarding a little bit, we couldn't make maps every time. It's like going to your grandma's house and she's got the 1,000-piece puzzle on the counter, and before you leave, you just quickly grab 50 pieces and stick them in your pocket, and then when grandma's bitching because there's, or she can't finish her puzzle and doesn't know where the pieces go. But we would send data to various imaging companies that do this stuff in drones, and we would only have a success rate somewhere between 60 and 80%. And I would tell these companies, primarily in San Francisco, I would say, guys, until you can make a map every time, don't even talk to a farmer. It's a waste of time. Go put it in a magazine article and talk about how wonderful you are, but it doesn't work. Oh, we know, Chad, we know. Well, guess what? In 2018, the technology finally caught up. We were able to take old data from back in the day, and now there is sophistication out there to stitch every time. In 2018, we stitched every one of the images together, and we're talking about a pile of them. I do testing all over the U.S., and it worked flawlessly. That being said, you can see the imagery here. Okay, fine, that looks pretty. But I want to talk about where this thing is going, because it's already here, and it may take a couple more years to really adapt to your tailgate of your field, but this is where it's going. I would tell those companies, hey, listen, I need the data right now at the field. No farmer, who has a laptop computer in this room they carry in their pickup truck? Raise your hand. Absolutely. 4 people. Okay? Nobody's going to do that. No one's going to have a laptop in the field. I said, I want the data in real time in the field. I want to push 2 buttons. I want the drone to fly, and I want the data right now. Until you can do that, go back to San Francisco, get another $20 million, and go burn it in a barrel and figure this out. And I would tell them that in those words, I swear to God. So check this out. This is a test in June of soybeans. I did this on purpose. The highest resolution I could pull. This is using drone deploy. This is at 66 feet. This is way overkill, so everybody relax. 66 feet, I took 180 photos of 2 acres. So the resolution is super, super small. This data right here is the data I got in real time while I was standing there. Now, clearly the top one's better, okay? But here's my argument. And to my agronomist friends that are in the room, you're going to pay attention to this one. Check this out. Remember, satellites are giving you a resolution of what, guys? What are we doing for satellites? 10 meter? Yes? So 10 meter resolution, what's that mean? That means a pickup truck. So satellite imagery does a good job seeing things at a pickup truck level and higher, which is fantastic. Okay? It'll tell you a lot of things. This is a little more detailed than a pickup truck. You look at the top, find a spot. I don't care where you're sitting, find a spot. So we look at this spot right here, you look at that intense detail, you go, wow, that's fantastic. And you drop right down to here, and guess what? This resolution in real time is good enough. This is fantastic. And this resolution right here from June got 2 times better than this for 19. I've already been testing it. This is a thing now. A thing meaning you can get real-time data in the field now, finally. It's pretty cool. So you say, well, how do you know this, Chad? Where have you been doing testing? So this is back home probably 3 weeks ago. Been out to California twice in the last, month, sorry. This is Valencia oranges that'll be harvested in about 6 weeks with the same iron sitting on this table. This is a 90-year-old orchard. You can see it's had some issues over the time, but it's a pretty cool place. We would go out and we'd fly. And basically, you click on the corners where you want to fly, push the button. Drone takes off. It's not that exciting. Goes back and forth like a lawnmower, takes pictures. So let me show you what it looks like. This is in real time, the screen view of my iPad, and you can see the drone coming across the field. Guys, we're getting to where drones are going to start to matter. This is all done with the $2,500 drone. And you can see the imagery automatically populating. This old stuff right here is from Google Maps. It's super cool. So you say, okay, that's kind of clever. What are we going to do with it? Well, let me show you. So this will show you what that image looks like when you get back to the office. And then obviously there's a lot of analytics and a lot of crazy things you can do with it. But again, I will argue this one fact. And the guys this morning that were up here did exactly that too. Look, whatever you're doing with sensors, whether the sensors are in the soil, they're on a drone, they're on an airplane, they're in a satellite, they're just going to show you the change that takes place in your field. It's your responsibility to go out to those places and see if it's something that you can make a change on, right? That being said, I need to give you a glimpse at the future. And this is where you might start getting a little uncomfortable and looking at your watch, wondering what you're going to do this afternoon, because I'm going to take a couple leaps out here now that are going to make you a little frustrated. So this was back in October, and we are in California again because I needed green crop to test this, and this is out now. This is a 160-acre block of almond trees, like 4-year-old almond trees, and so is this. So this is a 320. I flew it with that drone right there. And you drag these boxes around right here, and you know what it does? It counts the trees in real time while you're standing in the field. This is a big deal. Now, I don't have to tell anybody in this room, I already know your question. We can count trees. Can we count other things? They count cars right now. Cattle is right around the corner. And yes, they're going to count plants too. Now, obviously, if you play much around with agronomy, you learn really quickly that counting plants is, I don't want to say almost impossible to get to 100%, but almost. Because from 250 feet or 5,000 feet, if you can tell me how you're going to figure out whether a plant has 4 leaves or 5, you go ahead and let me know. Because the smartest people on the planet can't quite figure that out yet. But I want you to notice as this zooms in, look how it sees where all the trees are. It's really cool technology. This is machine learning, artificial intelligence, whatever buzzword you want to use. It's really cool. That being said, there's also some new drones that just came out. I have one. It's up here right now. This is the new Mavic that has thermal on it for heat detection, which is pretty cool. And I'm like you guys. Okay, so what am I going to do with that? Okay, I can see things that are beyond our vision, which is neat. This is out in California about 3 weeks ago. We're sitting underneath this awning right here on this house. These are avocados, if you're curious. This is a patch of wine grapes, like literally drink wine grapes. Really high-end, fancy stuff. And I told my buddy, I said, will you do me a favor? Will you turn on your irrigation? He drives it all from his smartphone. And he said, well, if I turn it on, it's going to leak because we got emitters and it's not all ready to go yet for spring. And I said, great, let's see it leaking. So with that drone on the table, you can see the water coming out. Then I turned on the FLIR, the thermal side, and you could see the red is hotter, the darker is cooler. Well, the water was in a storage facility, so you can see it's kind of warm. So that's kind of neat. They have a windmill out there for frost control in the avocados. And I just went up to it and went through all the different color palettes of thermal. I went, that's kind of interesting. Because I've played with thermal on grain legs and some other things. I think it has its place. This is kind of that first step at a cost point that's not too bad. That drone's about $3,500. The really high-end thermal stuff, the camera's about $12,000. 3 years ago, it was $30,000. So it's getting better. This little video clip here that plays, this is from the Consumer Electronics Show. And I know many of you have heard of FLIR. That's the thermal company. FLIR is the 10-ton gorilla in the thermal market. To put it in perspective, if tomorrow Fendt, John Deere, New Holland, Case IH, everybody said, nope, we're not building tractors anymore, we're going to make one, we'd all buy that one because there isn't any other ones. They're the only place you go for thermal technology, and they've rolled out some new stuff with their autonomous vehicles that'll play here. It's a neat video.
So I'm Kelsey Judd, project manager with FLIR Systems, and we're sitting inside of our brand new thermal enhanced autonomous test vehicle. So it's a Lexus 450 hybrid, and we've outfitted this with a bunch of our thermal cameras as well as some other popular sensors for ADAS and autonomous driving. Just to show people the technology, show how it fits with the other sensors and where thermal can make today's system safer. So just some of the views that we've got here are, this is a forward-facing thermal camera, visible camera, and a LiDAR. And you can see really how bright people appear in thermal because we're seeing the heat that they emit. And so even at night, if it were pitch black out here, this looks the same. So we really can increase a system's ability to see people and living objects and things that you really don't want to hit when you're on the road. Just a couple bells and whistles. We've also got full 360-degree thermal vision with 6 cameras. And so this is showing the forward-looking 180-degree field of view just for full situational awareness. And our ITS group has got some V2X technology. So this is communicating with stoplights out on the street. So, when you're driving around, you can know what to expect before you can even see it. So really, it's all about adding more sensors, making cars safer, and this is kind of a demonstrator for how our technology does it.
So when he said that V2X technology with the stoplights, you guys aware that there's a thing now in the major cities for autonomous vehicles that they actually speak to the cars so the car knows mathematically if it's going to make the light or not. It already knows that decision. There is no, hey, I'm going to make it. No, I'm not. It's already smart enough to know that. It's kind of neat.
No more tickets.
Autonomous car, you would hope not. You're going to see more stuff in drones. That's going to continue to develop. You're going to see more sensor stuff. Now listen, everything I showed you today, sensor-wise, or maps that I showed you, were done with a stock camera. And I want you to know I've spent a tremendous amount of money testing sensors. And I will also tell you there's some amazing sensors behind me. Some very, very sophisticated, good stuff. I don't think we're quite there yet. The reason I say that is I think there's a place for the high-end sensors. I think for what we do in commercial agriculture here on your farms, I don't think it's the way to go yet. I think that will be. I think in the near future, there's going to be some options that, hey, I raise corn and soybeans, great. Here's that specialized corn and soybean sensor. Hey, I raise cotton in the Delta, use this one. It's coming. It's just not quite there yet. The other thing I am very protective of, and you guys will all respect me for that, this is a $2,500 drone. I don't want to say you use it and you throw it away, but you run it for a year or two and probably sell it for $1,000 and call it a day. When you start playing here, you've noticed this, all of these cameras have the ability to clip on a drone. Well, that's fine, but to have a drone like this, you're at a whole nother price point. This drone, all loaded up without cameras, you're going to be around $8,000. And these cameras really range in price. That's the FLIR one. You know, that's a $12,000 camera. That's about $5,000. These down here vary. I'm not telling you that those sensors aren't good. I'm just saying you get a lot of great value from this one, and that's kind of where I live. I live in the, let's talk about practical. I don't think I want to spend $20,000 today. That being said, you guys know that they've been spraying with drones for years. Anybody know this? This is a fun slide. This is probably the one slide, the one photo that I've shared the most. Why? They started flying these, and this is, you go look it up. They've been flying these. This is the Yamaha drone. They've been flying these since the late 80s, commercially since 1990, and they've consistently applied over 2.5 million acres via drone the last like 15, 20 years, and nobody in here really knows about it. So to talk about the future, does that mean we can spray fields with drones? You bet we can. That being said, you can see it right there. There it is next to a full-size man, and well, you don't see any of those up here, but that's not a real truck, but you get an idea how big it is, right? So out in Central California, I took this photo 3 weeks ago. This is inland crop dusters. These guys have maybe 10 or 15 crop dusters. They've been there for 50 years, 40 years, forever. They just bought 3 of them. They're getting started with that process as well. I can tell you, it's not as easy as Amazon, and I'll click on the sprayer drone, and it comes and you start spraying pesticides. That sounds really good in theory, but there's this thing called the FAA and the EPA that's not going to work. There's a bunch of hoops you got to jump through, but you can do it today. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that's coming down the trail when it comes to interesting things with data, you saw the guys talk about some pretty amazing stuff. I'm going to share another level of amazing. There's a system out there right now. It's about $5 an acre. They come and fly your fields 13 times for $5 an acre. And yes, it's high resolution. It makes a whole bunch of maps. But what the interesting part of this technology is the analytics behind it. Hey, I'm Farmer Chad. I've got 30 fields. The airplane flies. The system comes right out the next day and says, hey, Chad, of your 30 fields, here's your weediest from top to bottom. It also has the capability to go through, look for weed escapes. It does that all on its own with intelligence. You don't even know it. It also can alert you to man-made errors. And it has thermal as well, so it can see that in a way that you can't see with your eyes. Some pretty cool stuff that's new. You can see right here, how would you ever know that that one variety of corn's going down right there? That's from thermal. It's pretty cool. That's something I've been looking at the last 3 or 4 years, and it's, like I say, it's starting to become a thing. Something else that's coming down the trail too, we talked a lot about sensors today. There's going to be more sensors, and sensors that are going to go in the ground. It's coming. It's really coming. And this is a little scary, but you look. This has got probes at 6, 18, and 36 inches. And I'm telling you, they sold this probe out for 2019 in just a handful of days. But you start talking about getting pH, nitrates, potassium, and phosphorus in real time in the field with physically right there. That's pretty neat. Their model is designed, you lease the probe. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but this is a glimpse at our future. There's a lot of other companies working on this as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I developed this little report card. I've got just a couple more slides, and then we're going to open this up for Q&A. And I honest to goodness mean this. I think you need to step back from technology, and obviously you're at this meeting, so you already kind of took the first step, and you really have to have a plan. And for some of you in the room, that plan means walking all the way over to this table and buying an iPad. I get that, okay? But you got to have a plan for technology. You got to be talking about it. You got to invest in things that are going to get you a return. You know, I say this all the time, but I'll never forget this argument I made with my grandpa. Years and years ago. He's since passed away a long time ago. And we got in a heated argument when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. I never watched cartoons. I was always on the farm. And he said, Chad, all you got to do is work half a day. I'm like, Grandpa, what are you talking about, half a day? He goes, yeah, it doesn't matter whether you work the first half or the second half. And I will argue with everybody in this room, that's what we do. The most valuable thing that we all have is our time. And if you're telling me a drone can't save you time, or a new phone can't save you time, or other new technologies can't save you time, I'll argue it. And I think that's a key component. The other thing is, I want real-time information. I don't want to take the insurance agent's word about my cornfield that just got hailed. you know what, that's fine. I'll stop and I'll spend 4 minutes and I'll take a photo myself. I'll check it myself. I want real-time information. The other thing is this, calculate your results. If you took the time to change that planter population, then go check the results. See what you learn. And finally, do not be afraid to fail. Guys, I fail all the time with technology. I really do. But if I didn't fail, I wouldn't be able to come here and share you the successes we have and help point you in that direction. That being said, you know, when I grew up, and I understand everybody's take on social media. There's nothing you're going to tell me that's not going to surprise you. But I will tell you, yesterday I was visiting with a guy. Where was I? Last night. I was in Langton, South Dakota, and a guy walked up to me after, and he goes, you know, your social media thing really freaked me out. And I said, why is that? He said, my dad lives in Florida. And 2 weeks ago, I would get his mail and box it up and send to him. And 2 weeks ago, my dad called me, and he said, you don't need to send the farm magazines anymore. And the son is like, why, Dad? He's like, well, those guys are on Twitter now, and I read the articles on Twitter. Don't waste your postage. And the guy goes, Dad, you're on Twitter? He goes, well, I sure don't type anything on there, but that's where I go to get my ag news and see what you boys are doing. And the guy was like, wow. And his dad's 75 years old. So for me, I don't drink coffee. I don't drink soda. Guess what? I don't have time at 5 a.m. to go sit at the coffee shop and gossip. I'm not a drama guy. But you know what? When I have questions about ag, this is where I go. These are where my friends are. And I have friends all over the world that farm. And I will tell you, if you have questions about what you're doing here, don't be... Who's on Twitter in this room? Raise your hand. Yeah, you betcha. Absolutely. And if you ever need anything, you know, just ask. So I've got 3 more slides, and then you'll be either ready to eat, find the bar, or get in your truck, one or the other. Because I want to show you just what that real future looks like. So obviously there's some new technology out there now. Let's forget about the plant trimmer, because that's just weird. But on the left side, I mean, it's probably really handy if you're that guy, but none of us are that guy, but that's kind of neat. But I want you to notice over here, they're spraying apples, they're picking apples, they're pruning the trees, 100% autonomously. That's pretty neat stuff, guys. And that's really the era that we lived in. Mechanical ways to remove weeds. Look at that. It sees the weed. It's knocking out the weed with no chemicals. Obviously, you saw John Deere's deal where they're spraying the weed. That technology is coming soon to you guys. Look at this thing spot spraying. Watch. It sees the weed and spraying it. How crazy is that? That being said, this is the one that's the most uncomfortable. So I'm going to apologize for sharing it to you, but it's kind of my responsibility to do so. When I was at the Consumer Electronics Show, there was a wall, and I will tell you the wall was about this size right here. And I walked up to it going, okay, what is this concoction? And you'll see me in here somewhere. And I'm standing there, and it's a dense crowd kind of analyzing tool, right? It's really designed for protection. But he showed me the commercial version of this. There I am right there, and you can see it's looking at how long I've been staring at the screen. And went to the other side of it, and he showed it to me, and it clicked on my face and literally said 42 to 48-year-old male, and had a timer running how long I'd been in that place. And you know what they're starting to do with this? Put it in retail. So when you walk into Hy-Vee or your store in the future, it's going to know where you go. It's going to know what your tendencies are. I don't know. That feels kind of odd. Maybe really good in an airport like LaGuardia, but it's kind of crazy. That being said, I've got one more quick video here, and then we'll take some questions. So I can't even tell you when, in the last 60 days, I got invited to go out to Tucson, Arizona, to Caterpillar's Proving Ground. And yeah, I played with some really big stuff. You won't see that here. But the reason why I wanted to go is they had their new electric drive dozer. So most of you in this room at some point in your life, I'm sure, has run a dozer. This is a D6. It's the same engine, so same power plant, but the drivetrain is electric. And it's a pretty neat story. We aired this on the television here maybe a month ago, but you should be able to hear this pretty good.
This is a 30-year redesign of our D6 line, and that's tip to tail, from the blades to the frames to the roller frame, engine, transmission, cab, you name it, it's all been redesigned. One of the most exciting features on this is our new electric drive system. The engine drives a generator, electricity goes through an inverter, then down to the electric motor down in the powertrain. That provides all of our forward and reverse propulsion. It's extremely efficient. We're looking at up to 10% more efficient than the traditional powertrain, and about 10% more productivity than the traditional powertrain as well, too. But it's not all about the electric drive. We're also talking about some great control technology on this track. Standard on the machine is what we call slope assist, and that helps the operator keep a target slope with his blade. Is a feature that we call CAT-Grade with 3D, and that uses 3D GPS technology and allows the operator to snap that blade onto a design, and therefore take his hands off the controls. Makes it much more efficient, get the job done quite a bit faster. So some amazing technology in this new version.
After a few minutes in the cab and familiarized myself with the operation of this new machine, I was really excited to run it. Let me tell you, running the electric drive dozer is unlike any machine, honestly, I've ever run. The reason why is it makes 100% of its torque all the time. And that feel is really good. The other thing I want to share with you is very similar to header control and combine. They've got this device called slope assist. Push a couple buttons and it follows the slope that you're on. Doesn't use GPS. Let me tell you, these dozer operators, it's a big deal. It's new technology.
Don't worry, I think they were flying the dozer because I watched. There was about 6 of them from Caterpillar. I think they were over there betting on how bad a job I was going to do with the dozer, to be quite honest with you. But I will tell you that I think you're going to see some of that electric drive equipment come very soon to us. Possibly in your rotor drives, chopper drives, I mean things that are high use because the efficiency is really wild. That being said, I've got one quick story we're going to open up for questions. This is the same cell number I've had for 25 years. I share it wherever I go around the world. So one quick story. So about 2 years ago, it's right before Christmas, and I get a phone call. And it's, hello, it's Chad, and the guy says, hold on a second, and he hands me to somebody else, and this is so-and-so from the Apple store. Can you help this guy pick out an iPad? Like, okay. So I pick out an iPad. I ask him if he wants cellular or not. He says yes. Me and the Apple guy pick this all out. And when we're done, he hands the phone back to this guy, and he goes, oh, Chad, thank you. I saved your phone number, and I knew I had to get one of these damn things. And I walked into an Apple store. I had no idea what to do, but I remembered I had your phone number. Thank you so much, and hung up the phone. I have no idea who that guy was. My point of today is this. You can have the team here show you all this great technology, spend a few hours of your day, have a pork chop or whatever you're going to have at lunch. The trick is identifying a few things to go try at your farm. That's the key. And the other thing is having great partners to help you along the way. Obviously, the team here, and if you need something, and I sincerely mean this to each and every one of you, I really like text messages. Emails are fantastic. But if you're in a pinch, my phone number is right there. So that being said, before we do questions, 2 things real quick. Number 1, as you guys know, I do a lot of stuff with Max Armstrong. He's a dear friend of mine. And I want to remind everyone in this room to be safe this spring. I cannot stress that to you enough. I know too many stories that just pull my heart in 10 pieces. Make sure you make safety a priority on your farm, number 1. The second thing is, God bless you guys. Have a great spring, and we're going to open up for questions.
All right, let's give Chad a round of applause.
I'm going to show a drone in here how easy it is to fly before we're done too. So.
I like that. I like that. So let's open this thing up for questions. So first of all, let's open this up for questions for Chad. Topics that he's talked about, things you've heard, questions you'd like to ask him.
Sir.
I'll start at volunteer. Tires your low profile. I've read that you need to have higher pressure going down the road so they stand up and lower in the field.
No, not true. No, you're in the same pressure all the time. Have a nice day. Once you put air in them, you never touch them again. The only issue you ever really run to with them that we learned on combines is obviously you need to do the first air pressure based on what you're doing. What that means is if you got a folding, chopping 12-row head that you leave on, you might carry a little bit more weight in general, but after the first setting, you're done. I've got guys running them for 3 years with 1,500 hours on them, and if one of them was sitting in here right now, there's no one in this room would guess within 500 hours how many hours on those tires. You can't see them at all. They work amazing. Yeah, great question. Oh, and by the way, you know they work because you can buy them on a John Deere piece of equipment now from the factory. So that means they've been New Holland, Case IH, Kubota. I mean, I can go on. They're all using them. So it's a thing now. It's real. But great question. Yeah. Oh, you did? How'd they work? Isn't it crazy? Yeah, you just, look, if you didn't do it 10 years ago, your neighbor did. We all bought big floaters and thought that was going to work, and then you drove down the road the first half mile and went, I'm not doing this again, because they go, This, you don't have any of that. It's a completely different deal. But thank you, by the way. What else, guys? Anything else? While you're thinking, I'm going to show you this real quick. I want to give another quick example of drone technology. Guys, I've done nothing. I took this out of the box. Remember I told you I had the drone out front and I took pictures of the facility here? All I did is take this drone, set it on the ground. Now, all these drones today that you buy have GPS. They also have sonar all the way around them. So this drone, it'll beep at me and stuff when it gets airborne, but it's smart enough to see its surroundings. So the thing that you don't know about them is they have enough automation in them that they have auto takeoff, auto land. So when it's a beautiful southern Minnesota day and the wind's blowing 20 miles an hour, none of you are drone pilots. You push the button and it takes off and goes up 4 feet and sits there and waits for you. You drive it around when you're done and have a nice day. So that's what this is going to simulate. So it's using the sensors right now to maintain its position. You can see it's not moving. You go fly it around, do your thing. You know, everybody smile, take a picture. When you're done flying, you say, hey, I'm done. You swipe the button and hit down, and it lands all by itself. Come on. You're telling me one of you can't do this? What I'm telling you is that's how easy they work. You know, it's stabilized camera. You're watching it in your pickup truck in 1080 HD. So pretty neat stuff. So.